Okay, on the same time zone as me, such a treat. 8 a.m. here in Montreal, 8 a.m. in New York. Jeff Rose with us, Jeff Provenzano. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
It's good to see you. We've just been chatting. Well, it was in New York when I last saw you. That must be 3 or 4 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago. I was walking down Houston Street early in the morning, and all of a sudden there's a familiar face walking down the block. You don't see that too often, you know?
No,
I mean,
you
I
don't.
see people from the neighborhood, but seeing someone from out of town, I was like, what? No way.
So what are you doing in New York at the moment?
Right now, actually nothing. Watching it, it's really, really windy today. Kind of kept me up all night, actually. Woke me up like 3 or 4 times through the night, the wind banging on the windows. But yeah, I'm just here. I'm based in New York and I'm based in Arizona. I kind of bounce between the two places. The beginning of the season just started here up at the ranch. Got up there last weekend and this weekend. Made it up there and made some jumps. Other than that, spend a little time at iFly, and you know, I've got a few gyms that I go to here. I have a couple trainers in New York, and then the rest of my personal life. My girlfriend lives here, and my family, my mom, and my dad will be back here soon. He's a snowboard, so he's still in Florida, but he'll be back up for the summer. And yeah, this is a big part of my life, New York.
Fantastic. What a great place. The ranch, iconic. I saw that video on Instagram landing right in front of the hangar next to the Twin Otter. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, there was still a lot of snow on the ground. So it just, you know, recently all melted, and the ground is just really wet, and the drop zone has a lot of wet spots and mud. So I just figured, you know what, let's stay dry. I don't want to get all muddy.
Best way, the intelligent way. So Red Bull Air Force, you do some incredible stuff, some of the most amazing demos. I always have a massive smile on my face when I see them. What I'm thinking about, was it the Texan Longhorns into the crowd there? You were bringing in the game ball. Talk me through that. Wow.
Yeah, no, that was an incredible demo. Yeah, all the demos actually I mean, we're really lucky to, you know, have the opportunity to do what we get to do. And before this whole pandemic, that was one of the last ones that I got to do, was the Texas Longhorns. And I mean, you know, Texas and football. So, you know, you bring in a football into a football game in Texas, the crowd goes crazy. And that was it was a pretty packed out stadium. And Luke Akins and myself, we got to jump in together. It was, you know, Luke is, you know, one of my best friends and, you know, teammates for years. So just being alongside him on a demo jump is always just, you know, it's awesome. So I felt at home right there, and it was an intense moment bringing it in there. You know, the thing that people don't see in that video are the cables, and people who go to, you know, football games might know that there's the cables in the stadium, but people who don't go to the stadiums, or, you know, people who don't jump into stadiums, won't know that there's these cables that, you know, they run camera systems on the cables for the nets behind the end zone. Yeah. So they're invisible to, you know, to the eyeballs when you're coming in, especially from 1,000 feet. You just kind of have to know where they are, and that's it, you know. So that's like the biggest challenge to me, jumping into a stadium, is kind of, you know, the mental part of just like, hey, you can't see those things, but I know where they are in reference to the stadium, and stay away from those things, because, you know, that would be not a good thing. Yeah.
once you get below the height of the place, once you're actually in the bowl, does the air change? Do you feel a difference?
Yeah, it can. You know, stadium jumps can be really squirrely with winds. You know, it's very common that the winds right above the stadium are in one direction, and they kind of transfer and go in the other direction inside the stadium, you know, and you can get a little, you know, usually get a few little bumps. That's why I like to try to come in a little bit with some speed still, just to kind of cut through that stuff.
Yeah. Good stuff. Brilliant stuff. Well, let's take it all the way back, Jeffro. Let's go back to when you started. When you were a kid, you were snowboarding, you were skateboarding.
I was climbing out of the crib probably as a toddler, you know, just already causing trouble there. And yeah, skateboard. I got my first skateboard when I was 8 years old, and I was just, you know, my girlfriend always teases me. She calls me Bart Simpson because I used to skate to school in like the 3rd grade, which is, you know, now, like looking at kids, I mean, you know, most kids aren't in third grade walking to school alone or doing anything like that. And I mean, I was skateboarding in school on my own in third grade. And I mean, that was like the beginning of, you know, this whole journey, I guess. It started with skateboarding. I skateboarded all the way through college. I grew up on skis. I was on skis when I was 4 years old, skied here on the East Coast. My mom's from Switzerland, so I spent a lot of time in the Swiss Alps skiing as a kid too. And then that transition to snowboards. I saw my first snowboard in 1989. It was like I was one of the first people on the mountain with a snowboard.
Wow.
I quickly transitioned to that. I saw that. I was like, Mom, I got to do that, you know? And yeah, skate and snow was a big, big part of my life. At one point I thought, you know, that was kind of the dream, was to be like a pro skater or a pro snowboarder. And I made my first skydive in 95. First year after college, just completed my freshman year of college and made my first skydive. And that was just like an eye opener right there. And I had no idea that skydiving could be a sport. Yeah. You know, it was just like in my mind, let's check this off. Let's go do it. Point Break, cool movie. Let's do that, you know? Yeah. And, and I landed, my feet hit the ground, and I just had to reevaluate everything.
Wow. You knew straight away something was different, eh?
I knew I had to do it again. I'll tell you that. I knew I had to do it again. I didn't think at the moment, you know, I was going to make a full commitment to the sport and continue it, you know, to this length. Yeah. But I knew the minute my feet hit the ground, I was like, all right, I got to figure this out. You know, I was broke. I was in college. Had no money, didn't really have much, you know, financial support from my family either. Right. So, you know, it was kind of like left up to me to do it. So I just, you know, I did what I could. I went back to work. I was delivering pizza. I was caddying on a golf course on the weekends. And I worked at an ad agency also during the week. It was like a paid internship that I had at the time. So I was juggling these like little jobs during school. And, you know, every 2-3 weeks I'd save a few bucks and then jet out to the ranch and go make like one AFF jump, you know, right. Maybe if I was lucky, I got to do 2, you know, I could afford 2 in a day, but it was a very, very, you know, drawn out experience to get my A license. I think I want to say it took, you know, well over a year.
How did you feel about being in that environment, mixing with other skydivers and seeing, because it's a very unusual thing, isn't it? You see people from different generations, different ages, but all with this love for life and want to do something. I found it really intoxicating when I first found myself on a drop zone, getting to know people. How did you feel about that? Yeah,
I mean, you know, I definitely felt small. You know, I felt like everybody there just, you know, the intimidation was real also, you know, looking at all these people that like they do this all the time. Yeah. I was so terrified on my first skydive. I couldn't believe that these people, I see them on the ground. I'm like, wait, like, how could they do this? Like, it's just terrifying. Like, it really, like, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I'm like, cause I was quite terrified from, you know, most of the beginning. Every jump I went on, it was like this vicious cycle of, you know, I'd get on the plane and I would just be like, what are you doing? This is the dumbest thing in the world. Like, you're going to die, you know? And then I'd land. By the time I landed, I was like, oh my God, that was the most incredible thing in the world. You got to go do this again. And then by the time I got back on the plane, I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? And it was just kind of like rinse and repeat. So I looked at everybody on the drop zone and I was like, wow. You know, I looked up to everyone immediately. You know, they were all like heroes to me. I'm like, how do they do this all the time? So I wanted to do it. There was a part of me that was just so, you know, just intrigued by it and just like, I have to do this. And then there was the other side that was just completely terrified.
I totally understand. I was exactly the same. Really, I remember getting my A license on about 50 jumps and saying to people, look, I need to confess, I'm a fraud. I'm terrified. And they all said, well, you're supposed to be. And I was like, oh, okay, now I'll get it. Kind of.
That's part of the excitement, you know?
When did you realize it could become a career? When did you realize it could become something that you could do for a job?
Not for some time. I mean, I continued skydiving throughout college.
You were doing arts, were you? You were doing arts at college?
Yeah, I went to School of Visual Arts, and not far from where I bumped into you, actually, on Houston Street there. So yeah, I did what I could throughout college, mainly just summer times. And I'd work for half the summer. One year I worked half the summer, saved some money. And then the second half, I bought a rig and did a little road trip and, did as much jumping as I could. But I mean, it was slow moving. And then when I finished college, I was pretty burnt out on just art in general, like producing art. Our art school was very intense. And I mean, you think you just sitting in the classroom painting all day, which you are, but it's very competitive and very time consuming. So I just needed a break, and I decided, like, let me move to Skydive Arizona. I went to Skydive Arizona the summer before, actually. So I was familiar with it, and I knew I had to go back there. And I thought, well, let me just go there. If I'm at Skydive Arizona, which is the largest skydiving center in the world, I thought this is going to be the best opportunity for me to be close to the sport and to be able to actually get in the air. I didn't know how, but I thought, whatever, I'll do anything. I'll scrub toilets. Whatever I had to do on the drop zone. I ended up packing parachutes. I was a packer for the first season there, actually for the first couple seasons. I packed parachutes, and that just enabled me. I was there and I was just hungry. I mean, I lived like, that ramen noodle lifestyle, living in my tent and then a bunkhouse. And I eventually moved into a trailer, but the goal was just like to get into that airplane. Like how many, I wanted to jump, that was number one goal. Every penny, everything went towards that. And it wasn't just for a few more years that I really thought, I just kind of played that. That was like the cycle of that I really thought, oh, maybe this is what I really want to do. Maybe this is the, arena I want to stay in, this is the world I want to stay in.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of skydivers find themselves at that stage and then continue like that. It can plateau out. You can find yourself as a full-time skydiving bum. I mean, we've all seen it. It can happen where you don't move forward, but you did move forward. You had ambition all the time, with swooping, especially. Talk us about your early days of swooping. How did that come about?
I as a packer, I was like, I wasn't able to get on every load and I was packing parachutes. So I would quite often just like watch airspeed landing they would just sessioning, just jump. And I just go out there and watch them land and watch everybody else land at the drop zone. And, I watch and learn. I'm very I learn very well just by watching people do their thing.
Interesting, right?
And especially good people. And, I think being at Skydive Arizona allowed me to kind of see a little bit more, a greater vision, just because there were, sponsored teams at the time there that were just that was their job, train and jump and compete. So, if you're at a smaller drop zone, maybe all you get to see is like, oh, the tandem business is kind of like the level that you can get to. But being at Skydive Arizona opened my mind to like, man, there's got to be more. And having that snowboard background and seeing what happened to snowboarding, being one of the first people on a mountain with a snowboard and seeing just that industry, I kind of had this idea like, there's more out there. There could be more. Like, most people do not know about skydiving and the general public doesn't know it either. So I always felt like there was more to be done and more to be had. But swooping, it was something I could see, I could watch, I could admire. And after I got off the packing mat, my first job became filming tandems.
Right.
So, in the beginning, learning how to film and fly and everything, but, that becomes kind of very repetitive process, the filming part. And, you don't get to really do that for yourself, but the element that you get to do for yourself is you always get to land that parachute. So, I always loved the parachute from day one, just the quietness and, being up there and just kind of being able to just like slow down a little bit and, look at Mother Earth below. I always loved it. And I excelled in it, just because you like something, you're probably going to be good at it. If you like, well, not necessarily, but you'll be better than that if you hate it. You're not going to really be that good at it. So I really enjoyed that part of it, and I excelled in it quite very quickly. You know, and it was just all around that time, you know, I was emerging into that, into that as swooping was kind of becoming a competitive sport. You know, it was, you know, it wasn't at nationals and World Cup levels yet, but there was a lot of interest in it. You know, there was the Pro Swooping Tour, there was the Para Performance Games actually before that. Pro Swooping Tour, there was the Red Bull Tour, there was the Euro Swoop Tour. So there was these other tour groups that weren't sanctioned by, you know, national parachute associations, but or the FAI, but you know, there was a lot of interest within the sport about this, and I was kind of growing with that and emerging into it with while that was all, you know, being developed. So it was kind of like right time, right place.
Yeah, this is like the late 90s, early 2000s, is it?
Yeah, exactly. This was, I think my first swoop comp was I want to say like 2000, maybe 2000. Yeah, like 2000.
Yeah. I think the first time we met was at the King of Swoop in Ampurias, Brava, Spain. And that was the first time I'd seen a Miracle Man. Wow.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I have a picture of you handing me like a giant check, you know, and it was like boards like here.
Yeah.
I forget, like €1,000 or something, you know, for the freestyle event. And I think myself and you're in the picture handing it to me, and Shannon Pilcher's in the picture.
Yeah.
And I think somebody else, I can't remember who else, but yeah, that was where I met you. I was like, you were the announcer. You were an amazing announcer.
that Miracle Man turning a full 360 under canopy. How did that develop? Was it something you had in your mind, or did it just happen? Or
it was just kind of like the evolution of the blind man, you know? Luke Aikens kind of introduced, once again, talk about Luke. Luke Aikens kind of introduced the blind man at a swoop meet. However, the blind man wasn't quite all the way blind when he did it. You know, it was like almost there. So it was like, to me, the first goal was like, well, he's on the right path there. You know, he's got the idea of bringing this thing around. Let me bring it backwards, you know, because it was just like more than a method, not quite blind man at the time. So that was my first goal. And, you know, just kind of evolved from that. You know, I went to blind man's to like blind man flying the blind as long as I could, you know, getting on toggles and learning how to fly it backwards is good. And then I just thought like, well, why can't you just keep going and, you know, twisting around?
Yeah.
That's it. I had a swivel chair in my trailer, like at my desk. Sorry, if you're wondering what this is just my little critter just
buddy.
Time. So I had this little swivel chair that I'd sit and I was like, and I'd spin around in it and just kind of visualize it. And I'm like, all right, I'm backwards. And then, okay, this is this way now. And that's all right. So, and I just worked it out in my mind. And yeah, I just,
fantastic.
One day.
Yeah.
The first time I tried it, I stuck it. The very first time
Did you?
Yeah, it was in the Czech Republic. It was in Klatovy in the Czech Republic. And I just nailed it. And I was like, wow. And then like the next 3 times I just ate it hard. So like I got lucky, tried the first time I ever went for it. And then I discovered all the things not to do. And then,
Brilliant. So how did the association with Red Bull come about, Jeffro? How did that start for you?
You know, Red Bull also same thing, kind of right time, right place. I was based in Lake Tahoe during the summer times.
Yeah.
Red Bull was in Lake Tahoe. It was one of the first test markets. Red Bull, when Red Bull came to North America, was I believe Tahoe and either Aspen or Vail. They kind of that was like the little test market, see what's going on, and that's kind of where they grew. So you know, Tahoe is kind of an outdoor sports mecca. The first Red Bull North America Red Bull athlete was Shane McConkey, based in Lake Tahoe. Yeah. And, you know, Shane was jumping at the drop zone there. So he just kind of, he brought the Red Bull people over. It was small at the time. There was one sports marketing director, and, you know, they came up, the whole company came up. So I kind of just got within Red Bull early on. And it was also just around that same time, they were seeing me starting to, you know, do well in swoop competitions. And that was like the thing that was taking all the attention. So it's just right time, right place with the right people. And, you know, it kind of trickled from Shane to Frank Gambale who was a base jumper, based in Lake Tahoe at the time, who Frank teamed up with Charles Bryan and Mike Vail, and then Mike Vail and Charles brought in John DeVore. And then meanwhile, there was a paragliding element going on in Colorado from that other market from, Othar Lawrence and Chris Anacroce. And then it just all kind of united. And I was just kind of like, I was just kind of on the bench on the sidelines at the time. And, just right time, right place.
Yeah. And then the Red Bull Air Force came after that. Obviously, you got your Red Bull, you with the sponsorship, obviously with the team and doing demonstrations. But the Air Force, was that developed? Were you part of that development? Or?
Yeah, the Air Force developed. I mean, that was kind of Othar Lawrence and John DeVore. When they kind of connected and linked up, they decided like, hey, we should do this like air. So Othar was paragliding world, John skydiving world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like they met and blah, 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 blah. Let's do the Rebel Air Force. So they created this concept and this team of all things air, base jumping, skydiving, paragliding, and then also hang gliding at the time. And that was kind of the core of it back then. So, and then it just kind of developed. And now, I mean, technically it includes Kirby Chambliss with the aerobatic, the Edge 540, and also, the helicopter, which Aaron Fitzgerald is flying now here in America. There's a couple of them overseas too. There's the Flying Bulls and other sections, but Red Bull Air Force, it actually now the Red Bull Air Force is all of us, the aircraft side and the sky base, but we don't have any, there's no longer paragliding and hang gliding. Hang gliding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we lost. We haven't had a hang glider on the team in years. Since I've been on the team, I've never had a hang glider on the team. So, but paragliding too. So right now it's pretty much like wingsuit, base jumping, skydiving, helicopters, and airbagging.
And then we're going to talk about the Hollywood side of things with the SAG card and the movies and the TV and the commercials. Did you expect that? Did you know that was coming? How did you feel about it when that all started?
I kind of think I met Joe Jennings one year at a symposium.
Yeah.
And I was just familiar. He was just kind of like, oh, sorry. He was just like a rock star to me. He's just like one of the Hollywood guys. And I just saw him, I met him, and I just was like, dude, I want to work with you one day. Look at what I'm doing. And I showed him some videos of me like flying parachutes down mountains. And this is, way before speed flying or speed riding. Right. And I showed him some videos of stuff, and he was just like, whoa, that's sick. He's like, yeah, maybe, and next thing I knew, one day he called me up. I was in Skydive, Arizona.
Yeah.
He would come to Eloy a lot to use the facility and the sky bands there to throw things out of airplanes for commercials and stunts. And, and I just, I don't know. I just manifested that with him somehow. I was like, man, to work with you would be a dream. And, and he just was like, that's awesome. Yeah, maybe one day, and next thing we worked on a few gigs together, and Joe thankfully brought me into that whole world. Right. And, it's just, a lot of times you just need that little thing just to kind of get that kickstart. You need, especially with the Hollywood world, it's just like a tough scene to break into. There's a lot of people trying to get in, and there's not a lot of slots. There's only so many opportunities, and that
Ironman, the Ironman 3 gig, that looked like quite an event. Did that take quite a lot of filming? Was that over quite a long time?
Yeah, it took actually like 3 weeks or over 3 weeks of filming. I forget exactly now, but we did at least 2 solid weeks of skydiving and a week on some cables to do that. They were like, hey, we want you guys to do the entire scene, like from the door all the way down to the floor, Yeah. So even the last section where we're getting dropped in the water, that all had to be done on giant like zipline cable things where they were releasing us and we were just splashing into the water. So we spent about a week doing that. And then, I think about a little over 2 weeks in the air doing the sky scene. That was amazing. I mean, we had a huge team. It was probably, I think 12 or 13 of us stunt performers
Yeah.
alongside like, you know, all these coordinators and riggers. And it was a massive production. Go to lunch. I'd go to the lunch sometimes. I walk in, I'm like, who? I was like, where are all these other people? You know, because there's people working in trailers and stuff that you'd never see. And then you walk into the lunch, just like it's just packed. There's like 50, 60 people in there. And you're like, what? I mean, I'm only like skydiving, like a pilot, and there's like 12 of us in the airplane.
Yeah. Who are all these people? Good catering, yeah?
What's that?
The catering would be good.
Oh, yeah. The catering was great. Yeah. I think we all gained a few pounds. I was like,
I want to talk a little bit about food, actually. And, you know, you're a very big proponent on meat-free and plant-based diet. Tell me how you got into this and how important is it to get the word out there and to really make a change among sport?
I think nutrition is huge. You know, we put so much emphasis on, you know, training, working out and all that. And, you know, we just know the pyramid is kind of flipped. Like, you know, sleep is number one, nutrition is number two, and exercise is number three in terms of, you know, priorities. So yeah, nutrition, you know, I just realized that it plays a much bigger part. I've explored with a lot of things. I did explore with, you know, staying plant-based for a little while. I'm actually back onto meat and meat products. However, you know, I source all my meat now. I actually do a lot of research on where the meat is coming from. I avoid commercial farming, commercial meats at all costs, really. Right. You know, it's something I think it can just be done, you know, for ethically reasons and also just it's better meat. I mean, you want to put junk in your body, you know, it's commercial meat. That's what it is. Hormones. Yeah. And then it's also just, I just can't come to like grips with, you know, how the treatment of the animals, you know, right. in those environments. So, you know, all the meat here I get in New York, it comes from farms, from local farms that, you know, and that I've sourced out. We go to the farm sometimes. Me and my girlfriend drive up to some of the farms too. So we just, you know, kind of stock up. There's so many ways now. I mean, you can order stuff. There's great websites too, to, you know, get good ethically sourced meat delivered to your home.
Yeah.
So it's a huge part, you know, and just nutrition in general. I'm just always reading and learning. And there's a lot of, you know, sources out there now that, you know, you could just constantly explore and learn. And it's an ongoing thing, you know, it's just constant new information coming out all the time, new research coming out all the time. Like, so, you know, but yeah, I right now I'm kind of on like I've been on like a very high fat diet, good fats, but high fat diet, low sugars, kind of cut back on the sugar side of things, but high fat, low sugar, that's the name of the game for me. And, you know, eat your greens.
I think we all want to be more responsible with how we eat, what we put inside our bodies, don't we? I think there's a big movement at the moment. Everybody, not just athletes, wants to try and be more responsible. It's finding those options. Like you just said, there websites, you can search out how to get locally sourced meat. That's really interesting. I didn't think about that as an idea. I like that idea. Yeah,
just see what's in your own neighborhood, you know, see what's in with like a few hour radius of where you live. I mean, there's probably farms right there that you can just, you know, buy local. It's a good thing. And, you know, support it, you know, so let's get away from all that commercial food industry, you know, and, it takes effort, you know, so, you know, for lazy people, that's going to be hard.
You need to put the effort in.
So lazy, you know, and, you know, I definitely just put a little effort into it, and you can definitely do it. And it's, you know, people always say like, oh, it's more expensive. It's this and that. And it's like, it's actually, it depends how you go about it. You know, if you're going and buying prepackaged organic things that are, you know, from the, it's going to probably you're going to spend a lot more money on things, you know, cause you're paying for the packaging and stuff like that. But if you're finding things from local farms and, you know, bulk items, you know, you can actually get plenty of food to sustain. And when you're eating right and you're eating good things, you don't need as much stuff because you're getting the right nutrients into your body and you don't need all this junk. I mean, you know, the other way, it's like, it's cheaper, but then you end up buying a lot more stuff, and then you end up, you know, your health is down, everything goes down, right? So you're spending money on doctors now.
Yes.
So just trying to do the work beforehand, you know, it's a tough transition to maybe make from what, but little steps and just, you know, just take little steps at a time, and, you know, you can get there. So.
Well, it's really working for you. You're working out a lot. You're at your peak. You're at the top of your game. It's been a long journey from those days in college, in art school, and that first tandem. Do you ever get moments, Jeffro, where a certain thing you've done in the sport just makes you stop and think, wow, I can't believe I was there doing that? Do you have any of those moments which spring to mind?
I mean, yeah, for sure I do. I can't think of any right now, but I think you know, because I'm still so connected with living where, you know, where I grew up, and, you know, I'm connected to, my mom still lives in the same house I was born in, you know.
Wow.
So, you know, I'm constantly, you know, looking down that lane, you know, the memory lane all the time. And so it's interesting. But I have those moments all the time, and you know, and I'm still good friends with all, like, my childhood, you know, friends, and, you know, I still connect with a lot of people I grew up with. And so I do have a lot of those moments. Those moments are kind of normal.
Yeah.
So.
And what about for this season, for 2021? Have you got any big projects coming up? Or they're probably all top secret at the moment? You can't tell us much.
I got some cool projects I'm planning. I don't want to spoil anything. No.
But you got a good season ahead. You got a good season coming up.
Yeah, it's a good season. Actually got some cool stuff happening this week here in New York. We're doing some cool things. So
nice.
Yeah, I got some of my teammates flying in Wednesday night.
Yeah.
John DeVore, Miles Dasher, and Sean McCormick will be here. And we're going to go. Yeah, we got something cool here even. So, you know, it's not a lot of events yet, just because of, you know, we're still in pandemic world. But, you know, as we're able to kind of move around through, you know, in this environment, this COVID environment, you know, we're able to do some small projects now and do some like small production stuff.
Good.
And, you know, I'm kind of wiggling around too. I'm just itching to do stuff. So I've kind of, you know, created some of my own little projects that I'm producing on my own. So.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. It's always innovating, always going forward. That's the way, isn't it? Yeah. Jeffro, it's been absolute pleasure to catch up with you, man. Great to see your face.
It's awesome to see your face. I hope I see you in New York one day again soon.
I hope so. You're only just 6 hours down the road. If they open the border, I can drive down. But
I know. You know, I was just talking actually to another friend from Canada. He said the same thing. He's like, as soon as the border gets, you know, a little less dicey.
Yeah, let's see. Well, listen, have a great day, man. Thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure, Jeffro.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.